Hello and welcome to Downtown. I'm your host, Robbie Haig. Thank you for being here. Today I am talking with Susan Moranchik she is the Director of Senior and Community Services in Sandwich. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you, Robbie.
It's so good to see you. And actually, we just met.
We did. It's nice to be here.
It's nice to have you here. So you have already been at your job for over a year. That is amazing.
It has flown by, but it has been over a year.
Bet it has. And I think you probably have gotten into the nuts and bolts of the job too, huh?
Yes, very much so. Many moving parts to the job.
So where did you come to us from? What were you doing before this?
I spent almost 20 years in corporate America. And I worked in the financial services industry for firms in Boston. I lived here in Sandwich. I've been in Sandwich for about 28 years. 28 years this December. And worked for firms, traveled a lot in the brokerage industry, in the mutual fund industry, in the private equity industry on the sales side. And then when I had my son, I stayed home, did some part-time work, and got with the VNA, teaching senior exercise courses and doing classes for people on managing chronic illness. So I went forward from there, worked on various certifications, did some classes through UMass Gerontology, and I worked for 8 years at Decatur House Assisted Living here in Sandwich as well.
Wow.
Doing a variety of different things there, from
Very
activities
good.
to their sales and marketing.
Okay.
And that's
so you're certainly prepared for your work.
Broad background.
Very good. Nice broad background. So actually, I wanted to ask about the fact that upcoming is going to be they're going to be voting on whether or not the town wants a new building. Am I correct?
It is Article 1 at special town meeting, Monday, October 28th, coming right up, 7 p.m. at the high school, is a vote on a combined project for a new Center for Active Living, which is a purpose-built building for a senior center. It also includes a full-size gymnasium, which will be available for scheduled use to the community for after senior hours and evenings and weekends.
What a great idea.
It is definitely an investment in our community. I think it's an investment for all ages, and really something that has long been needed for older adults in Sandwich.
Very good. And it is true that if you build it, they'll be there.
Yes. I think you've experienced that in Plymouth as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And important to note too, Robbie, the other piece of the Article 1 that we are voting on, includes renovations at the library. So we have worked, my board of directors, the library board of directors, and Joanne Lamont, the library director, myself, have worked very closely together. And I think that the important thing about Article 1 is it addresses the entire community. It's about quality of life and really improving services that our community can offer.
Now, if they both are going to be voted on under the one article, correct?
Yes.
So it's all or nothing?
Yes.
Well, it is interesting because that's how I got started doing what we called before this seniority. And the people in town really didn't think they wanted a Center for Active Living because it was unnecessary for older people. Well, my goodness gracious, it has already been it's over 10 years since we have the new building, and they're already looking for other places in town to continue this.
That's incredible.
It's overloaded.
That's incredible.
It's really, really good. And I do like to say that there are no old people at the council. They're all very active and becoming more active.
Yes, and I think providing for people to have those opportunities, if we build here in Sandwich a purpose-built building, it will attract people that may not come to the current building that we have. And what I have seen over what's really been well over a decade of work with seniors, and even before that when I was doing volunteer work, is the earlier in engaging people, engaging older adults, the better habits we learn, and it also brings people together as a community. And addressing social isolation, there is no question that that has an impact on people's physical and mental well-being. So if you get people started with good habits, there's exercise opportunities, there's educational opportunities, and really trying to meet them, and that would be our goal with a new building as well, is to expand programming to really meet people where they're at. So if you are 55 or 60 years old, still working, and most of us are, then there's going to be something there for you. There will be hours there for you to do what you want to do. And we hope to get more volunteers engaged at a younger age as well. So lots of opportunity.
Lots of opportunities. And if you get the community together, and a place where they don't feel like it's old and decrepit. You know, people just do want to be in a happy surrounding. And it does make for a good retirement.
It does. And it's, as you had said, bringing community together is one of the things I think that Sandwich shows us every day. As I said, I've been here 28 years. What a tremendous community it is. We come together to help people. We come together after storms to rebuild and clean up and help neighbors. We see that over and over. We have a tremendous network of small businesses in this community that work together. We have tremendous volunteerism in this community, both with the seniors across all board. If you look at what our fundraising arm, the Friends of the Sandwich Council on Aging, do, if you look at the Friends of the Library Board and all of the nonprofits who work to provide things in this community, it is incredible. And something like this that could bring us all together, quality of life.
Quality
Definitely.
of life. And getting back to, I don't mean to continuously bring up Plymouth, but there are just a few things that happened that we didn't plan on, really. And with the Plymouth building, it was built along with Plymouth North High School on the same lot of land. And it is amazing how the two groups are so intertwined. They love each other. The kids from the high school volunteer, and the people from the center just love to have the kids come over and talk to them about how it used to be and what about this. And it's worked out extremely well.
And that's something, we would have envy over that setup. And we do work with, and that's another area of volunteerism, the students, and actually it's coming up, it's students from the Oak Ridge School provide a community service day for patrons of the Council on Aging. So they go out to selected residents who can't do as much yard work, do a fall cleanup for them. Parents come out and help with the students, and teachers who advise the group come out. So that is one example of how a community can come together, and having the students across all ages involved. So having the high school right there, we won't have that, but but having
at least they'll be aware.
Yes, and having space that different kinds of intergenerational programs can happen is also so important. We'll just be able to enhance what we already do and increase those intergenerational opportunities. That is all about, and give me a microphone and I'll start talking. I am just very passionate about the community effort in aging. It is everyone's goal to be able to stay in their own home and to stay independent. It is, if I could narrow it down to one word, it's independence for people aging. And bringing community together is going to support that being able to happen, and especially in Sandwich. I've lived in many places in my life, but never a place really where people are so passionate about their community and being able to stay here. And as we age, we want to stay engaged in that community.
Of course.
So this will give us the opportunity to really increase opportunities to do that.
It's the only way to go. We're all getting older. And
appearances change, but abilities do not. That's what I like to say.
I like that. I like it. Yeah. And, having a community that cares about each other. It's wonderful that the older people care about the kids in high school also, And many families don't have a grandparent.
Right.
So for the kids, the high school kids, to get over there and talk to or to rent a grandparent, it's really wonderful.
You may have just given me an idea.
I like it.
And that actually happens to be one of the support groups that I would like to see added. Is there's a lot of grandparents on Cape Cod and in Sandwich who are raising grandchildren.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Right
yes.
at the moment, we don't have room for any more scheduled support groups, meaning they take place on an ongoing basis at a fixed time. And that's one of the first ones that I would like us to do a lot more with at a Center for Active Living.
And I've worked with the group, the grandparents raising grandchildren. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable what they do, what they have to do, and how
Yes.
they do it. And by the way, Susan, that would be a topic for another conversation with you. And I would like to do that because that's an entity unto itself.
That's a plan, then we'll make a date for
Well,
that.
we
Stay
will.
tuned for another conversation.
Very good. So, since you're new, well, we'll call you new. A year is not new, but a lot of things have happened since you've been there, which is wonderful. And tell me how you're feeling about the town.
It is a tremendous place to work. I am very lucky to be in the position, and I cannot say, and I think it's important to say, the staff at the Council on Aging is outstanding. They are experts and professionals in the roles that they provide for the department and the work that they do. We have a lot of fun. That should not be a secret. That's allowed. We do have a lot of fun. And more importantly, the other side of the coin, the patrons that come into the Council on Aging to use the senior center as it is now are just wonderful. We enjoy each other, and that would be, not to keep getting back to a no building, but what we lack in our building now is any kind of social gathering space. You literally come in the door, do your program, and there's not even a lobby area to stand and put on a coat with more than 3 or 4 people. So we look forward to the opportunity just for the socializing, because that's important to the staff too.
Sure.
To connect with people, and that's often where we find out there may be other services that someone needs. Perhaps they've been coming to an exercise class, but they're struggling to get away from home because they have a spouse at home that they are also the full-time caregiver for. And we get them connected to what our outreach coordinator, Rita Wallstedt, may be doing. There might be services that we can connect them to that will help with that caregiving burden.
Very good.
So that's a whole other part of another leg to the stool of the business that we do every day.
And for those people out there who have not been to the Center for Active Living, there's barely room to change your mind in there. It's a small space, and more space really is needed.
It is. It would be, we can only say it just so many times, but it would be a tremendous investment. But that being said, I also welcome anybody, anytime, to come in. My door is open. Come in and talk with me. If you have ideas for programs, we'll work on finding space. We also are using what I call satellite locations. We have a couple programs running on an ongoing basis using the Sand Hill Community Building. We have 2 programs that run at the Wing School, so Cape Cod Collaborative generously lets us use the gym in the hour before classes start there. and we had to move a program that, one of our support groups that needs 2 rooms simultaneously, a caregiver support program, to the library because we couldn't accommodate that and make it safe for that program as well. So that is just another plug for a need for room. But I encourage, like I said, open door, come in and talk to us, meet the staff, see the building, and get a sense of what really goes on in there, even if you're not going to use the building, and use the programs.
And there might be people out there who have ideas, since you're starting really from the ground up.
Yes, that is what I would like to hear, is change is good from a perspective of we like to provide more new opportunities, and I'm open for complaints as well. Or if not a complaint, if there's a program that just isn't working for some reason, we can't fix it if we don't hear about it. So definitely come see us.
And I think change is wonderful. Those people who don't like change probably don't go on vacation. But change is good.
It is.
Yeah. So the new building, of course, is going to be voted on very shortly, and I wish you very, very well with that. What else is happening in the community that you would like to talk about?
Well, a little bit of an overview. I think that I mentioned outreach as being a very important part of the work that we do. And in the year that I've been here, I've been out in the community speaking to a lot of different groups. And I have tried to let people know, I would say at least half of the work that we do is unseen. I know people think about yoga classes and cardio classes and art and painting classes, but the other half of the work that we do, because there is no human services agency in the town of Sandwich, so we really are it. I mentioned our outreach coordinator, Rita Wallstedt. I think that's an important, again, that's something that come in and see Rita. We work with families, we work with adults who are caring for aging parents. We work with many families where the adult children don't live in Sandwich, but their parents are retired here, staying in their home, trying to age in place, maybe approaching a time when they need some services. And you know, well, I know because I have parents who live 2 states away in upstate New York, and luckily I have a sibling up there, but it is when you're not there and you don't know on a day-to-day basis what's going on. Right. The Council on Aging is an excellent resource to be connected to other services and programs, both at the local level and at the state level. So outreach is a very important part. I kind of think of the business that we run and the services and programs in 3 buckets, if you will. There's certainly programming, and I think everyone's familiar with that, all kinds of educational, recreational, social, and wellness programming goes on. The outreach to the community is another part of it. Rita does also go on home visits, and we very often have, our building is also shared with the Sandwich Public Health Nurse. So Rita and the public health nurse will often go on home visits together. That's a great example if a family lives out of town, needs to know what something may have happened with the parents. Rita and Joanne Gake, the nurse, can go out and call on our resident and see what's going on. And it allows us to enter them into our emergency intake system. We work very closely with police and fire, so we are in community as far as caring for people who are aging independently in the community. And then the third leg of the stool, which definitely deserves mention, is transportation. Oh, yes. We provide, in the fiscal year is how we track our year, but in a 12-month period for the fiscal year, over 3,000 rides for people. And we take them, medical appointments is a large part of what we do. We also take people grocery shopping. We stop at the pharmacy, all of the errands of daily life that you and I take for granted because we pick up the keys and we get in our car and go ahead and do what we need to do. This is for people who do either over the age of 60 who for whatever reason can no longer drive, but it's also for people under the age of 60 who may be disabled or unable to drive for some other reason. We provide transportation for them too. coming to the Council on Aging for programs is a big part of what we do. And then the daily errands that I mentioned. Usually pharmacy, drugstore is one, certainly food shopping. If they need a ride to the food pantry, we will make that happen for them as well, and the medical appointments. And then with whatever resources are left, we do what I call the kind of life-enriching rides, which is maybe taking someone to the hairdresser. Sometimes it's taking, for the men, taking them to their favorite barber for a shave because they can't do it themselves as well anymore. So.
Very good. Well, you had mentioned that you have family in New York area. And I'm sure that's a relief to you that you have a sibling there who can work it. But I cannot imagine, and I'm sure even with that you worry about them.
Oh, of course.
Because you're not there and can't see it for yourself.
Right.
I cannot imagine not having anyone nearby.
It is, that has been a revelation. And that also is what makes me passionate about the work that we do. As I said, appearances change, but abilities do not. And it is the work of our department to try to connect people to community resources so they really can still have, again, that phrase, some quality of life. It's very hard to watch someone go through, whether it's family or residents in town, giving up the car keys. We have, speaking to transportation a little bit, the department has 2 vans, an 8 and a 12 passenger van bus that are leased to the town by the Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority. And we try to, they provide training for our drivers, whether volunteer or paid drivers who are going to drive those vehicles. And one of the things I like to see is they have added recently, in the last couple years, as a component to their training, working with people who have cognitive illnesses. It might be a dementia, there might be something else going on, because we see that every day. And that's another, speaking to connecting people to resources and the social, preventing people from being isolated keeps them from cognitive decline happening too quickly.
Life is amazing, isn't it? There's always something new and different to come up with and to deal with.
I think aging in the future is going to be wonderful. The resources just keep appearing, new ways of doing things.
And the other wonderful thing about it is that you're on the cusp of a new beginning with a new building.
Yes.
And now is the time to make sure it's going to be good in the future, which I'm sure you'll be doing.
It will give us lots, it will just open up more and more opportunities for us. So we hope certainly that people will give very careful thought to their vote.
Yeah. And I'm hoping for you that they will also. It is so very, very important that we really need to think on it and not say no without thinking.
Careful thought is important. And certainly there's still a few more days. Anyone, as I said, who wants to come and talk, have this kind of conversation about what we do on a day-to-day basis and why more space is important, and really just a more, not necessarily about the square footage, but a purpose-built building really is a phrase that has some meaning.
And even people who are declining to think the way we want them to think, if they come talk to you, maybe they'll understand better why it's going the way it's going and should be.
Yep, happy to, open door, happy to have anybody stop by.
Open door is wonderful. Open door is good. And I have been to your Council on Aging for a luncheon at one time. And so
Wonderful.
Yes, so you have space there to do stuff with, but it's space that's used for many different things.
It's very changeable.
Yes, very.
We adapt it. We do adapt it for many things. Speaking to the luncheons, we do those usually once a month. And we have, as you mentioned, we have one big multi-purpose room in the building. So that's used for exercise. It's used for lecture programs. We have a wonderful, about right after I started, we got a new flat screen. It's an 86-inch screen TV. So we screen movies for people. And that's been a very popular program.
Oh,
People
I'm not
enjoy that.
surprised.
But the luncheons, that is one of the things that if we do not have a new building, it's not possible to have a meals or nutrition program on an ongoing basis because the room is not, to have a daily luncheon for people to come to, not a special event luncheon, but just the noon meal,
Right.
takes up that entire multipurpose room that you've seen. So we would not be able to have any programming. So it was a choice of programming or meals. A new building would allow us to do that, and I think there's great possibilities. I call that the 21st century meals and nutrition, is people now really prefer more of a casual, come maybe pick up your food, cafe style dining, and we could make that available. Or maybe it would be like a takeaway cafe. So someone who is newly widowed, not used to eating alone, at least someplace maybe come and pick up food so they're getting good nutrition. We hope they would come for the social gathering of it as well. But that kind of food would be provided on a more regular basis. And there's no way to do that in the building that we have now.
And I will tell you, again, going back to Plymouth, which we have to have a comparison here, they have so many people coming to lunch, and they pay a nominal fee for their lunch.
Oh yes, yep.
Coming every day, that if you want to stop by and say, oh, this is a good idea, you might be out of luck. They do fill up on a daily basis.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that leads to the social interaction. I mean, that nutrition is, we didn't really mention that earlier, but that's another leg also of the stool that's about healthy aging and being able to age in place and stay independent as long as possible.
Right. And the possible is getting longer and longer because we are living longer.
Indeed it is.
And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Well, Susan, this has been a wonderful conversation with you. I thank you very much for being part of downtown here in Sandwich.
Thank you.
And I really do mean it when I say to you, I'm here. I'd like you to be here when you have something upcoming, and you'll be needing more volunteers when things are changing, and that's another topic that I love to get into.
We will, yes. I have a notebook with a list, Robbie.
I love it.
Conversations that we can have, so thank you. And I look forward to being here again soon.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you out there for being part of downtown. We can't do this without you either. And I hope to see you again real soon.